So I was just watching Tessa Violet's new video about there being a better way and about the stuff that has happened in 2016, and part of what she mentioned was Christina Grimmie's death. And what I liked about the way she talked about it wasn't that she said it was so sad that she died because she was so talented. And I think there's a lot of like death rhetoric. When I don't hear it, I notice it and I value it, because I feel like there's a lot of talk about the dead where people say it's so sad they died because they were so talented. And by omission, it feels like people are saying those that have success in life are more of a loss to humanity than the people who don't have success in life and the people who aren't talented. But instead, what I liked about what Tessa said was she valued the way that Christina had of making people feel seen, and how that's an incredibly more respectful and graceful way of remembering the dead, is remembering their value and how they made other people feel valued and seen. And then it made me think a lot about the concept of being seen in general and how weird it is, because sometimes I think people think I'm quite valuable because other people see me, or like I'm on YouTube and I have a lot of eyes on me, and I know friends of mine that are like, actually like real world famous now because of YouTube. And the difference between what they do and what other people do is that there are a lot more eyes on them. There is like an oversaturation point where I feel like you feel invisible, teenage years, obscurity, the way society makes you feel like a consumer and a viewer more than a person, and you feel invisible, and then you cross over and you're too visible, and then there are too many eyes on you and you feel too seen. And like, I wonder what is worse, is feeling invisible or feeling like invisibility is a complete impossibility. I think it's worth recognising that both are hard, and often it's the people who feel too seen that can help people who feel invisible feel a little bit seen. And that's like the great crossover of the viewer and the artist, is like a swinging pendulum. In that moment, if that creator can make that person who feels invisible feel seen, they take the shine off them and give it to that other person. And for a moment, both people escape their horrible fates of feeling either invisible or completely visible. And then it made me think as well about my newsfeed and how guilty I feel for not witnessing like everything. When I heard about the new massacre in France, I didn't want to look. I didn't want to see it. I didn't want to witness it. And that made me feel really ignorant, because I feel like a badge of being like a socially conscious, intelligent, important millennial who's bypassing all of the assumptions about young people and millennials is to be aware and to watch. But I think there is a big difference between seeing something and hearing something, like on a more visceral level. And I think that it's important that these instances and these horrible things in the world are not so much that they're seen or they're stared at or they're held in this like snow globe and like inspected from every angle. It's more important that we take a moment to really hear what that situation is saying to us and what it's speaking to us about the way our world is. And that doesn't always involve watching every single smartphone video of blood and screaming. And when we make these things in the world all about watching, we become spectators rather than like really important parts of those stories. Does that make any sense? Like, I feel like it's important to consume media about these things, but it's more important to make sure that the symbolic message of what's happened has been heard, and really like boil it down to why that kind of thing happened, and how we feel about fundamentalism, and how we feel about indoctrination, and how we feel about people whose cultures are very different to ours, and how we understand them properly. And how when there are these vulnerable characters in society who feel so invisible, and we make sure that's so because we don't show people who aren't white in our media, or we don't show other religions on TV. And when you make people feel so insignificant and so invisible, how stripped of identity they feel, and then how susceptible they are to somebody, however bad their motives are, making them feel seen. And that's why I love that Tessa described Christina as somebody who made other people feel seen, because that is the balancing act we're all in at the moment when we live one experience and try to watch everybody else's via the news. But if we watch but we don't hear, and we don't change our situation, and we sit in our pew or our stall or our cinema seat or our viewing platform and we watch but we don't move, then we're just consuming other people's experiences, making them feel overseen, but not heard. Do you ever feel invisible as a viewer? Do you ever feel like you're an audience member when you watch the news? Do you ever feel like you're not watching enough and you feel like your need to be viewed, it becomes greater than listening to other people's experiences? And how do you deal with that? Because I don't know how.